Hi guys, it's Blah and welcome back to another video regarding the Beyblade anime. It's been a while since my last video, and if you haven't noticed yet, I dyed my hair blue again. At the time of writing the script, my original tier list video was made over 4 months ago, with this list being the result. As you can see here on the screen, I placed Beyblade vs. God as the best season, and I placed Beyblade vs. Sparking as the worst season of Beyblade. And I did agree with this list for a while, and I even showed it off to some people to take a look at it. Over time, I started to wonder if I would still agree with those opinions after some time had passed. Therefore, I decided to rewatch the entire anime again, this time including the 16th season, being the second season of X, which, might I add, is still airing by the time of making this video. However, I wouldn't want to spend the entirety of summer on just one video, therefore I decided to split this written tier list series into multiple parts, going over 3 to 4 seasons at a time, depending on the generation. And this video will go over the Quad Strike season, X, and the second season of X. Before we start, here's the criteria that'll be used to rank the seasons. You can pause the video at this frame and go over everything in exact detail. So without further ado, let's get into the rankings, starting with Quad Strike. Kicking us off, we have the Quad Strike series, remaining in the grade tier. Keep in mind, these seasons were revisited out of order, so I just tapped into which one I felt like watching. So let's dive into the story, then we'll go over the pros and cons of the season, and afterwards we'll wrap it up with my overall rating. So Quad Strike is basically a continuation of the previous season, with our protagonist Belle and the new secondary protagonist Pri going on a journey. Pri's whole situation is that she wants to help her brother research elemental power and to find her identity as a blader, living a double life, because she's Pri, but she's also a masked blader known as Quadra. Belle's goal is to become stronger by facing new foes and gaining experience. I think this story concept was executed well for the most part. I didn't really have any complaints going into it. The season, like Sparking, also focused on fan service by bringing back old characters to face our current protagonist. I think the season overall does a good job at handling most of its characters. There are some moments that I think the character utilization fell a little bit flat. Like Xander, for example, I didn't think Xander had much of a purpose in the overall, like the grand scheme of Quad Strike. But overall, I think it was solid enough. I like how they built on lore with most of the elemental stuff compared to some of the seasons in the past. I think the lore building in the season was done exceptionally well, and I was very invested into the lore of the seasons. Like in terms of the lore, I got very invested into Beyblade vs. Quad Strike. I think the pacing was alright during the season. It got a little rough during like the middle portion of the season, but I feel like most of the overall pacing of Quad Strike was done pretty well for the most part. Stuff I didn't like include most of the battle choreography was very mediocre, since it had most of the original gimmicks in mind. I think the art and the animation was pretty poor during the beginning of Quad Strike, like shots transitioning into other shots, like that felt kind of rough. Like the keyframes were good, but like the frames in between them were just not it. But I think overall the season delivered when it comes to stuff like character work, which was done very well, and most of the interactions between old and newer protagonists were very funny at times. So in conclusion, the season's solid. It's very solid. Top tier season in my opinion. That remains in the same tier from the last video. Beyblade X is up next, which drops from the top of the good tier to the near the bottom of it. If I had to describe this season, then I'd say it's an interesting yet controversial season. So let's get into it. The season follows Kurosu Exu. Yes, the writers confirmed that he's the protagonist and not Bird. Exu is a former champion that quit his old team to reconquer X Tower. His main goal is to face the reigning champion Chrome Ryugu in a battle. I feel like the story was executed well enough, I guess. It wasn't as appealing as some other seasons, but I think it's like fine where it is. The whole story is pretty much having to get to the top of Slash Tower, and that's pretty much it. I feel like the main team, Team Persona, is like fine as a main cast to follow. I found Exu and Bird to be a little like basic and mediocre as characters. They're not bad or anything, like don't get me wrong, but they're just kind of meh. They're just kind of alright. I thought Multi was a good character. I like her personality and outfit changes, as well as her voice actor. She's really good at voicing. So shout out to the voice actor for Multi in both Japanese and in English. I feel like the same as Exu and Bird can be said for Chrome Ryugu. He's also very mediocre as an antagonist, and I really didn't find him appealing or like interesting. Overall, the character work for like most of the opposing teams was pretty good, and I think the season did a good enough job at handling the character work for the opposing teams. What really bugs me about this season has to do with like the art, the animation, and the battles. I feel like this season was pretty much like below the average in terms of animation and the art for the overall season. I think the same can be said for the battles. They're also very underwhelming. The choreography was very weak for the early parts of the season, and the intensity wasn't there throughout most of the season in terms of the battles. They felt very slow paced at times, and I overall don't think that this season has anything else, like too much else for going for it for like an interesting story. It's just kind of alright. Now we're at X Season 2. This one was more or less the same as the last season, although I found this one to be a bit more enjoyable than the previous season. Okay, so let's get into the plot of the season. So Team Persona embarks on a new journey at the Solidus Tower, which is the other tower. Like you have the Slash Tower in front, and then you have the Solidus Tower in the back. That's what the whole X thing is for. Their goal is to challenge Team Zodiac at the top of the tower, but first they must compete in the All-Star Battle, which is pretty much just a rehashed version of the Battleship Cruise. Now granted, I think this plot was good for the most part. It felt a little like redundant to see the same thing over again. I think it's executed quite well. Like the overall like concept of it is executed quite well. I feel like the main cast in this season felt a little dull. Honestly, it felt like nothing was happening at times. Like sure, Multi went on a journey to relearn Bay crafting, but I feel like that didn't really make much sense. I thought Tenka was cool, but she didn't really offer much more to the table, which is kind of underwhelming. The battles weren't anything to downright home about. They weren't like very appealing, but that the season is still strong, very strong for like character work for most of the opposing teams, and I very much enjoy this season for what it is. I think this ranking doesn't really make much sense like script wise, but I do like this season quite a bit. Plus the animation was much more consistent than the previous season, so that's a plus. Overall, this season's enjoyable, but it doesn't have much else going for it, just like the previous season. Keep in mind this season's ranking is subject to change given that it's still airing. And that concludes this video's tier list entries. At the top, we have Beyblade vs. Quad Strike, and then this is subject to change, but we have the second season of X, and like somewhere around good, and then we have Season 1 of X being ranked below it. X Season 1 was rated a bit too high in the previous video. Anywho, make sure to comment your thoughts in the comment section below. I will be activating the comment section so I can hear you guys' opinions. But please be nice and don't harass me in the comment section, please. I don't want that. If you like this style of content, then consider dropping a like and subscribing. I make tons of videos on topics like Beyblade in particular, but I'm also gonna try and focus more on other topics of content like K-pop related content and much more. Alright, that's all for this video. Goodbye, and hopefully tomorrow will be another great day for blading. Bye!